who will win the pole and the front row for the Great American Race, the biggest race of the year.
It is a big deal.
Let's go racing, boys!
That's the only way I know. But don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never turn around. Don't back up, don't back down.
It ain't over yet.
That's the only way I know. But don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never turn around. Don't back up,
Contact! Whoops, contact again. Is this his year? Matt Kenseth wins the Daytona 500. Fan favorite, Dale Earnhardt Jr.,
Danica Patrick, Jimmy Johnson.
There's your front row for the Daytona 500.
We welcome you live to Daytona Beach, Florida. And full qualifying, Kevin Harvick already in victory lane, winning the Sprint Unlimited on this track last night. Tony Stewart first up today, try and capture the front row. And full-time at Cup this year, Danica Patrick for Stewart Haas Racing with Tony. Already hit a top speed in practice of 196 miles per hour. The front row for the Great American Race run next Sunday is on the line as Fox Sports presents Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Which man or woman will have the fastest car and lead the pack in the 55th running of the Great American Race? A sunny, breezy, and chilly day as the Hollywood Hotel is trackside. Hi, I'm Chris Myers. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Thanks for being with us alongside Michael Waltrip, analyst and driver in his fire suit. I think we burned your suit from last night, but that's okay. He'll be in the 26 car, hoping to run in the Daytona 500, but play analyst for us. This cool, breezy weather, what effect on qualifying and the speeds?
Well, before you can win the war of being the fastest of the 45, you have to win a couple of battles. One battle is to get through the inspection room. Make sure everything you practiced yesterday, you're able to carry out onto the racetrack so that you don't have any curveballs thrown at you. And then secondly, how do you fight this wind? Do you put a little extra gear in your car? Do you think that maybe it'll lay just when you go? Do you get lucky? And that could have a little bit to do with who gets the pole, getting the right gust of wind at the right time. These cars are really affected. Generation 6 cars are fast and fun to drive, but you start blowing wind on them, they get a little bit squirrely.
And Chevys, you think, are the ones to watch in terms of the great speeds. Last night, we saw some of that in the Sprint Unlimited. 19 drivers had to be a pole winner or win the previous event. Tony Stewart on lap 15 of 75, a little aggressive. 7 cars involved in the wreck. Denny Hamlin taken out, along with Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, who won it last year. Kevin Harvick sprinting to the front, and in victory lane, he wins this event for the 3rd time in the last 5 years. Coming up, 3-time champ Tony Stewart never won a Daytona 500. His qualifying straight ahead. We're live from Daytona, NASCAR on Fox, and for the 13th consecutive year, the voices of NASCAR on Fox. Let's join Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, and Mike Joy. Mike?
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everybody. First car on track for Daytona 500 pole position qualifying is 3-time champ Tony Stewart. A new sponsor for Stewart this year, Bass Pro Shops, joining Mobil 1 on his Chevrolet. This will be Tony's 15th try at the Daytona 500. Last year for Stewart, the defending champ finished 9th in the standings, picked up 3 victories, including the July race here at Daytona. 12 top 5s in 36 races for the Rushville Rocket.
Yeah, Mike, that was the last time he went to victory lane, was the July race here, and he has a total of 18 wins here total and everything imaginable but the Daytona 500. He told us the other day he'd probably trade every one of them in for a win in the big race on Sunday.
Darrell, his 13 Speed Weeks wins here, tied with you for 2nd place on the all-time list.
Yeah, I mean, he loves this joint. We saw that last night. He gets around here great. He's real aggressive in the draft, and that usually pays off, particularly coming late in the race. So he knows how to win here for sure.
First car on track, so he has position number 1 on our ticker. Note the difference, and that number should continue to grow because that minus number is how much faster this lap is than his first of 2 timed laps. Stewart crosses the line at 194 miles an hour. And the first lap of record 46,936, 195.9 miles per hour. Second car on track in Daytona 500 qualifying, Mike Bliss from Milwaukee, Oregon, past champion of NASCAR's Truck Series. The G-Oil Toyota from Humphrey Smith Racing comes across at 47.509, 189.4 miles per hour for Mike Bliss. A change to the qualifying procedure this year in Daytona. Last year, first round practice speeds in inverse order determined the order of qualifying. Now NASCAR has gone back to the old way of doing things where a pill draw, a random draw, determines the qualifying order. You go out on track, Darrell, you run 2 laps as fast as you can. Wouldn't it be nice if that was all there was to it?
Well, you know, there's a real science to qualifying. I know the drivers will say, you know, I just get in, I crank it up, and I go. But the reason we practice qualifying runs is so we can get it right. And one of the things that the driver has to do, first of all, don't touch the brakes. It's always a little sticker on your steering wheel right there. Don't touch the brakes because you don't want to get those pucks out against the rotors and cause a little drag. The other thing is always hit your mark. Remember what you did when you ran your best lap. Watch the RPM shift. Watch the RPM shift. And then hit your marks all the way around the racetrack. That's how you back up the good speed, just like we saw Tony Stewart do.
Larry, we've had 10 different pole sitters in a row for the Daytona 500. That ties the all-time record. With this random draw for qualifying, will that play into who might sit on the pole today?
Well, I think we've got some fast drivers at the front. Tony Stewart's already laid down a pretty good lap. His teammate Danica Patrick, fastest in practice yesterday. But you go to the back of the grid. You've got Kevin Harvick, who won the race last night, Joey Logano, the Hendrick drivers. But, Mike, you talked about it. Last 10 qualifying sessions for the 500, 10 different pole winners. I think there may be someone in these 45 cars that we've not even mentioned that's just kind of laying in the weeds.
Kyle Busch is the third driver on track, his M&M's Toyota. Coming off turn number 4, back to the stripe to complete his first of 2 timed laps. There's a get up to speed lap and the fastest of 2 timed laps, which is almost invariably the second lap. Kyle has 2 second-row starts in the Daytona 500 and a 4th place finish.
And that's part of the science of qualifying. That first lap is you get the car wound up. You get all the speed you can, running right around the top of the racetrack, right up next to the wall. But as you come off turn 4 and head for the start-finish line to take the white flag, you then want to take the shortest route around this racetrack. And you'll drop to the bottom and you'll run that yellow line pretty much all the way around the track.
Kyle had 2 poles last season, the July race at Loudon, New Hampshire, and the fall race at Phoenix.
His first lap was not quite as quick as Tony Stewart's first lap, but he's going to be second. He gets into the 45-second bracket, 45.97, still well over 195 miles per hour.
Let's join Chris Devoda.
Thanks, Mike. Well, when you go out first, no other cars to compare yourself to, but you know how the feel in your seat, and so first on the board so far. How's that going to stack up?
I couldn't have told you if it ran 54 or 57 second lap. It's you just try to hold the wheel real steady, and you know, today is a showcase for the guys, obviously. So and today's a big day for Mobile One. I mean, this shows what Mobile One products do. So you know, hopefully we can stay there, and hopefully a 93 will be good enough to get us on the front row.
It's drafty out there today too.
It's cold when you get wrestling with your crew guys, and he gets a hold of the top of your uniform, and it busts the whole zip around, which I've never had a Simpson uniform bust a zip around. That's how tough they are. But my guy's grip was a little bit tougher. I had him like by the hockey jersey deal. I had his sweatshirt over his head, and I should have clubbed him down before he ripped my uniform open. It got breezy out there.
Well, you have the coat standing by. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Chris, to Tony Stewart. Quickest here is Martin Truex Jr. from Mayetta, New Jersey. 10th year in the series. Last year, he finished 11th in the Sprint Cup standings. He had 19 top 10 finishes, a career high. And that included 7 top 5s for the driver of Michael Waltrip Racing's Napa Toyota.
Now, last year when we had qualifying for the Daytona 500, he was the only driver in the Toyota camp to qualify in the top 10.
Well, Truex is one of those 10 consecutive pole winners. 2009 he won the pole for the 500. One of 7 career pole positions in the Sprint Cup Series for Truex.
You know, guys, when you go through inspection, like we said, and you get on the racetrack for qualifying, you just want to run better than you did the day before. And both Tony Stewart and Kyle Busch were able to accomplish that. So they have to be happy with the speeds their cars ran, the times that they were able to post. Martin Truex, like Larry said, top 10 last year in this race, had a really good car in practice yesterday. He's happy with it. But these cars, the Toyotas, just haven't been able to show the speed, the exact same speed that the Chevys have shown. We talked about it in the qualifying show. The Chevys are going to probably be the cars to beat today. 7 of the 10 fastest speeds yesterday were by the Chevys.
Thanks, Michael. Truex third on his first lap, and on the Fox tracker continuing that through lap number 2, where he clocks in at 46.105. That's a 0.6 of a second pickup on the second lap, and he stands third.
Looks like these guys are picking up about a 1/10 over their best lap from yesterday, which that's a lot.
Daytona 500 pole qualifying is sponsored by Sprint. Millions of fans, one family, only Sprint can beat them all. Join the family at sprint.com/speed. By Chevy Silverado, the one you depend on, the one that lasts. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Corpus Christi, Texas native Terry Labonte, 2-time Sprint Cup champion. He's wheeling the C&J Energy Ford for Frank Stoddard. Twice an outside pole sitter here at Daytona. Right now he stands 4th of Steve Burns.
Well, Mike Joy, a week from today, 43 drivers will try to make dreams come true and wind up here in Victory Lane to hoist the Harley J. Earl Trophy for winning the Daytona 500. But a bit of history. Who was Harley J. Earl? Well, he was one of the first rock star car designers, considered as the father of the Corvette, and he designed this prototype Firebird out of respect and tribute to Bill France Sr., considered the founder of NASCAR.
Beautiful trophy.
Thanks, Steve. Casey Mears is in the Geico Ford for Bob Germain, Booty Barker, the crew chief. Part of the famed Mears gang of off-road and Indy racers from Bakersfield, California. His 11th year in the series. His best Daytona 500 start for Rick Hendrick in 2008. He started 9th and finished 2nd here for Chip Ganassi in 2006.
You know, the Ford camp swept the front row here a year ago. Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle. The Ford camp, they were searching for single car speed yesterday in those 2 practices, but Casey Mears seemed to have a little bit of speed from the Ford camp. There you see his crew chief, Booty Barker.
Not a bad first lap.
Well, they're going to go some to beat Tony Stewart today, because Stewart's lap of 45.936 is the fastest Daytona 500 qualifying lap laid down since 1991. Business has picked up.
Yeah, this car is fast. I mean, it's going to be fast everywhere we go. That's one thing we know. It's a good-looking race car, and it's got speed.
Third for Mears, 46.037. Chevy, Toyota, Ford at the top of the board. Harley Earl responsible for some of the great GM concept car designs. Top the Harley Earl Trophy.
Okay, so I've got some of the new design.
Michael McDowell from Glendale, Arizona is the 7th qualifier, and he is 5th, driving Phil Parsons, number 98 K-Love. Herb Rickards Ford. This will be McDowell's 3rd 500.
Well, Mike, Larry, here's the run we've been waiting for.
Fastest in practice yesterday. Danica Patrick, whose hometown's Roscoe, Illinois. She now calls the Chicago area home. Beginning her first full season in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in this GoDaddy.com Chevrolet from Stewart-Haas Racing.
And she was, this is not a surprise, because she was fast when we're down here testing. This is one of the best cars in the test. She came right back down here, and this car has been fast every time it's been on the racetrack.
Danica will run for Rookie of the Year this season, but she's not a Daytona 500 rookie. She made her Sprint Cup debut in the Great American Race last year, the first of 10 Sprint Cup starts. She did run the entire Nationwide Series schedule in 2012.
Now, the lap she laid down yesterday, and every driver so far has picked up from what they ran into practice yesterday, but her lap that she laid down yesterday is about a half a tenth quicker than what Tony Stewart ran just a little bit ago.
Now that is Ricky Stenhouse looking on. Stenhouse is Patrick's chief competition for Rookie of the Year honors this year. But there's more to that story.
Yeah.
They've been dating for the last several months. They've won an item. Filled up the pages of all the local papers here on Valentine's Day.
Well, 46-42, that's quicker than what Tony Stewart ran on his first lap. And she should pick up about 5.5 to 6 tenths, which is going to put her in pretty good shape. And you can see right now on the tracker, that's where she's tracking.
She ran 45.86 yesterday. Based on what I've been seeing, there should be about a tenth improvement over yesterday. If that in fact is true, this is going to be a whale of a lap.
Mike, I know who else she's going to give some competition to this year on another award. I think that Sprint Cup Series most popular driver award that Dale Earnhardt Jr. pretty much has been a lock for the last few years.
Patrick started on the pole for the Nationwide race here last year, and she knocked the boss off the pole. Yes, 45.817, 196.4 miles an hour for Danica.
That's a great lap, guys. And you don't know the relief. I mean, you came here and tested, you're fast. You come back down here, you put up the fastest speed in practice yesterday.
Her new crew chief this year, Tony Gibson, has reason to celebrate.
And you got your fingers crossed when you go out on the racetrack that this thing will do what it did all week long one more time.
Yeah, they put Tony Gibson with her the final 2 races of last year, and she told us the other day when we sat down and talked to her that he believes in her. He listens to her, and he is doing things to adapt to what she's looking for in a race car, not what has worked for him with previous drivers.
And Mike, this by far and away, I think this is her best racetrack. She made her debut here a couple of years ago in the ARCA race, had a whale of a run, finished in the top 6. I think she's going to surprise a lot of folks with this car and with Tony Gibson as his crew chief, particularly this weekend.
That is the second fastest recorded restrictor plate lap in Daytona history. Ken Schrader has the absolute restrictor plate engine track record at 45.68, 196.9, and that was set back in 1989. Eric Almirola had his first try at the Sprint Unlimited last night. He's from out of Tampa, Florida, and drives the famed number 43 that Richard Petty took to victory lane in the Daytona 500 7 times.
Now, this morning, several drivers, including Michael Waltrip, Eric Almirola, and his wife Janice, they did a half marathon here, 13.1 miles. Eric completed that 13.1 miles in 1 hour and 46 minutes and 12 seconds. There's some drivers were a little quicker. We'll tell you about that later.
His Smithfield Ford finished in the top 10 in 2 of the last 4 races last year and would have been 7th in the season finale had he not run out of gas on the last lap.
Made a little crew chief change, a little swap there at the end of the year. Todd Parrott over here with Eric Almirola, and it seems like they truly were complimenting each other.
Right down against the yellow line, entering turn 3. On the second lap, taking the short way around. Not wanting to dip those tires down off the banking and upset the car, though.
These guys, I talked to all of them before practice started yesterday, and everybody felt like that you could run 196 miles an hour with this car if everything was straight and everything was right. And, of course, Danica just did that.
Almirola, 46.21, 194.7. He picked up 2 miles an hour on his second lap, and he is 6th. Danica Patrick is fastest after 9 cars in Daytona 500 qualifying.
Daytona 500 pole qualifying is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. NASCAR on Fox live from Daytona. Along with Michael Waltrip, Chris Myers in the Hollywood Hotel, Travis Quapple currently running 9th here. Danica Patrick in front of Tony Stewart right now sitting on the pole. Michael, you'll be out there as a driver racing in the Generation 6 car, trying to qualify for next Sunday's Great American Race. Who can challenge Danica from what you've seen?
I think Dale Jr. has a shot at it. He was fast yesterday, and I think his car will be fast again today. And you also better keep your eye on Austin Dillon. He doesn't go until late, but he's got a lot of speed in that car, and that car has to qualify in on time. I know everybody's here to go as fast as they can, but when you're tuning on those things back in North Carolina before they come down here, you want to make sure that if you got to qualify on time, you're going to have the fastest car you can have.
Let's check in with Chris Devoda, who's with Danica.
Thanks, Chris. Well, when you're the fastest in practice, there's a lot of expectation. So that's a quick lap, but did it live up to your expectation of what you'd run?
Sure. I mean, I've only done Cup qualifying here once before last year, and you know, one of the things that's very different, I think, this year is last year we went to practice in January. We were pretty good. Came to the race weekend, and we didn't really feel like we had the same speed we did. So it was a little bit more confusing. This has been very straightforward, very predictable and consistent, which is not something that always happens at a speedway. So, you know, they said if we can back up our time, that's good, and we went a half a tenth quicker. So I just hope it's enough. I mean, it would be really nice for GoDaddy, who's been very patient with me to get to this point to run full-time Cup. Hendrick has a lot to be proud of, Chevy, and of course all the guys that have worked their butts off on this car all winter, waiting for parts for NASCAR and being patient themselves. So there's a lot that everyone should be proud of no matter what happens.
She mentioned waiting for parts. Now the hardest thing for Danica, she has to wait. Mike?
Thanks, Krista. Mark Martin from Batesville, Arkansas, is 54 years old. He spent more than half his life trying to win the Daytona 500. This will be his 29th appearance in the Great American Race. He wheels the Aaron's Toyota for Michael Waltrip Racing. First lap puts him 9th on the board. An interesting setup for crew chief Rodney Childress, who has a menu of drivers to work with throughout last season and this. Mark will tote most of the load, however.
Well, and this team is, man, they've had all kind of problems. They wrecked a car in practice. They wrecked a car last night. But their 500 car seems to be intact and in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Mike, he's going to run 24 races, plus the race he ran last night. Brian Vickers will do 9 in this car, and then Michael Waltrip will do the other 3 restrictor plate races.
And Mark has been a contender. He lost the 2007 Daytona 500 by just 2/100ths of a second to Kevin Harvick. He climbs up the board to 7th with a lap of 46.22, 194.6 miles per hour for Mark Martin. Thirteen drivers have taken to the track for Daytona 500 qualifying so far. J.J. Yale, second-generation racer from Phoenix, Arizona, trying to make his 5th Daytona 500 for Al Henke and Tommy Baldwin in the Golden Corral Chevrolet. He is 10th quickest of 12 right now. And here's a look at the top 10, led by Danica Patrick, who was fastest in practice yesterday. 33 cars yet to take to the clock for their 2 laps around the 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway.
Daytona 500 pole qualifying is sponsored by Ram, engineered to move heaven and earth. Guts, glory, Ram.
The Buckeye Bullet, Dave Blaney from Hartford, Ohio, former World of Outlaws Wings Sprint Car champions, just completed his run in the Florida Lottery Chevrolet for Tommy Baldwin Racing. Blaney has 3 top 15 finishes in the 500, and he has qualified about a 10.5 quicker than his teammate J.J. Yale, 10th fastest at a 46.63. Ryan Newman, teammate to the 2 fastest cars so far, Danica Patrick and Tony Stewart, on track in his Quicken Loans Chevy SS. Newman last year finished 14th in the Sprint Cup standings with 1 victory and 6 top 5 finishes.
Mike, I talked to Smoke last night, Tony Stewart, and he felt like Newman's car would be a little bit faster than his, Tony's, but wasn't sure if he had anything for Danica or not. Thought she probably had the best of the 3 cars.
Newman won the Daytona 500 for Roger Penske in 2008. Started 7th in victory lane.
Yeah, the biggest thing about his 2012 season as far as qualifying, he has 49 career poles, but last year he did not sit on a pole. It ended an 11-year streak of sitting on at least one pole every single season.
Now, Matt Borland, who was Newman's crew chief at Penske, joined Stewart-Haas Racing about a year ago, heading up special projects and problem solving, but gravitated to a position back atop the pit box with his old buddy and fellow engineering graduate Newman.
It's that chemistry thing. They had success together. Then they kind of drifted apart and went separate ways, and they're back together again. I believe it's a great combination. And Larry, that's a pretty good first lap, brother.
Well, 46.38. That is faster than Danica Patrick or Tony Stewart's first lap was by just a little bit.
At one time, Ryan Newman was winning one pole every 4 races that we had qualifying completed. He has 49 career pole positions, but is looking for his first at a restrictor plate track, Daytona or Talladega.
One little thing I noticed on this run versus Danica's, Danica ran a little lower down the back straightaway, and Ryan was out a little further. That's just a teeny bit of distance. Let's see if it makes a difference or not.
Second for Newman. He beats the boss, Tony Stewart, his boss that is, by 5/1,000ths of a second.
Smoke's pretty smart, isn't he? He said his car might be a teeny bit faster than mine.
How about a look at our Fox Ghost car? Let's compare Tony Stewart, the fastest run of the day thus far, with Danica Patrick, who moved past Stewart to take the pole. Here they are on their second lap, heading off to turn 1.
Right there, you can see Tony, he gets him about a car length going into turn 1.
But I think right here is where you're going to start to see the difference go the other direction. It's like she just got a much better run off turn 2, but look at that horsepower down the back straightaway.
But look at the difference. See, she's down next to the yellow line. Even Tony is out in the middle of the racetrack. That's not a lot, Larry, but we're not talking about a lot.
About that wind, we talked about what a factor it could play in these qualifying runs. They were so even off of turn 2, but yet she drove away from Tony down the back.
Once Patrick got that car length advantage on Stewart, she held it all the way around to the finish line, the difference being a mere 1/10 of a second.
Michael, you don't reckon she was drafting at 14, do you?
That was a good picture there. I love that. And you're right, Darrell. It's interesting. As a driver, you have to balance holding that thing down off turn 2. Do you want to pinch it off and keep it low, or do you want to let it just sort of ride out a little bit so that you keep your momentum? That's something that these drivers, they'll debate and they'll consider before they run, and then after they run, whether they did it right or not.
Marcus Ambrose from Tasmania, 2-time champ of the Australian V8 Supercar Series. Picked up a win in 2012, the most exciting finish of the year. It came at Watkins Glen, New York. 3 top 5 finishes, 8 top 10s. And a new crew chief this year in Drew Blickensderfer for Ambrose.
And I got to tell you, he's a great race car driver anywhere we go. But anytime we go to a road course, I'm taking him to win the race. He is one of the all-time greatest road racers I've ever watched.
And that finish at Watkins Glen on that last lap with him and Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch.
I was at home watching on TV, and I was screaming, I can tell you that.
The Stanley Ford is the second of the 2-car stable for Richard Petty Motorsports, along with Eric Almirola.
Now, see, he's got that thing pinned down to the bottom right there, following that yellow line. In my opinion, that yellow line is your best friend.
And his teammate, Eric Almirola, who is 7th, ran right about a 10th quicker on his first lap than what Marcus's first lap just was.
And we mentioned Blickensderfer, who won the 2009 500 with Matt Kenseth. And there's Richard Petty. Watching this one. 7th for Ambrose, 46.203, 194.7. Chevy is racing the all-new SS this year, and we've seen the race car. Here is Jeff Gordon wheeling the street version of the Chevy SS to its world debut. And it's the first rear-drive V8 performance sedan for Chevrolet since 1996. The pace car made its debut in last night's Sprint Unlimited. And we'll will handle pace car duties throughout speed weeks for the Sprint Cup Series. The new Chevy SS is a cousin to the Holden Commodore that's raced in that V8 Supercar Series. Darrell got a great ride in one at Bathurst, courtesy of Jason Bright. And Jason tweeted last night, congrats to the Holden Commodore that won the Sprint Unlimited last night. That was Kevin Harvick's car. Here it is, the Chevy SS. There are differences between the two. They're corporate cousins, let's say.
But those guys, those Australian V8 Supercar guys, were absolutely ecstatic that Harvick won the race last night in their mind and in their eyes in the Commodore.
Paul Menard will be our next qualifier. All the Richard Childress Racing Chevrolets have been quick. This is the peak Menard's Chevrolet.
And Mike, just to follow up a little bit on the cars, these cars didn't just pop out of a box. These manufacturers, I think this is the first time that I can remember ever where the manufacturer worked alongside of NASCAR to develop a race car.
And when you say work, it was over a 2-year process, well over 2 years.
Menard has a Daytona pole. It came in the July race here in 2008. One pole, one victory in his 219 starts, and he's a newlywed. He and his longtime girlfriend Jen tied the knot in early December.
His first lap, 46-47. That's a pretty sporty first lap for Paul Menard. Of course, his teammate Kevin Harvick won the Sprint Unlimited, but all of the Richard Childress drivers, they showed a lot of speed yesterday in that practice session.
Yeah, 46-11 was his quick lap yesterday, so I think he might be able to beat that.
It's going to be close. A little higher line entering turn 3 than we saw from Danica Patrick, who is the current pole sitter, and the tracker moves to the right 4 positions.
It definitely appears that maybe the backstretch is a little bit line sensitive, but I would go back to what Michael Waltrip was talking about. That wind down that back straightaway, it can truly help you or hurt you.
Menard Chevrolet is 5th, 46.035, 195.5 miles an hour. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, we see some fast Chevys and Toyotas. Greg Biffle going out shortly. You won the pole back in 2004. The wind conditions, changing, a little gusty, then dying down. What's your prognostication on your Ford?
Well, we've lacked a little bit of speed since we've got here, but we've worked really, really hard, and we're just missing a little bit. And we had a little bit left, so we'll see where we end up. But I'm hoping we get in the top 10. And if you get that great gust of wind, maybe I get the 3 and 4 Fusion on the outside front row like I did last year. But it's going to be all about the wind today, and how good this car is going to run. But I'm hoping. All I can do.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
Krista?
Ryan Newman was able to top Tony but could not dethrone Danica. Less than a tenth. Anything you could have done different, a different line, anything else?
Well, the guys gave me confidence to hold it wide open today, and that made a big difference with our Quicken Loans Chevrolet. Honestly, there was nothing. I did what I needed to do, and that's what we had. But it's obvious that Stewart Haas Group has got their stuff together, as well as the Hendrick Motorsports, the engine group. But and they're pretty much, I think all those guys are yet to come. So we'll see what they have for stops to pull out, and what they have for speed. But I'm really proud of the Quicken Loans Group and Matt and all the guys. And Danica obviously was good in practice. He better than us the whole time in practice and the test session here, as well as this weekend. So we're second now. That's it. That's all I can tell you.
Thanks, Ryan. That's not bad.
It's kind of a standing joke among drivers when we come down here. Oh, I held it wide open that time. Every time you go on the racetrack down here, you hold it wide open.
This is Bobby Labonte driving for JTG Doherty in the Kroger Toyota. He'll make his 21st Daytona 500 start next Sunday. Started on pole for Joe Gibbs in 1998 and finished second. He has 2 Daytona poles here. He won the pole both in February and July in '98.
Yeah, he's finished second here twice. He's won a lot of races like the Southern 500, the Brickyard 400, the Coke 600, but never sealed the deal in the Daytona 500 as I've been.
Series champion in 2000. First lap 15th of 17. Looking for a several position pickup here on lap 2.
One thing Bobby really enjoys is taking long trips on a bicycle, and in each year he holds an event to honor, remember, and raise money for cyclists who lost their lives while riding a bicycle.
That's a neat event. It really is. Team honoring the USO with that patriotic paint scheme. As the body comes to the line and moves up one position to 14th, 46.73, 192.5.
I think his car owners too they do a great job of keeping sponsors on this single car team.
Really do.
Dad and Jody, they do really a nice job.
All right, let's check in downstairs.
With two-time Daytona 500 champion Michael Waltrip, but never sat on the pole. Before you get behind the wheel, you're going to head out there. Some observations so far.
Just like Darrell said, what's that back straightaway line going to be? How's the wind going to affect the way my car runs on that back straightaway? Do you pinch it down low or swing out a little bit off the corner? Make sure you hit your shifts right. And the drivers talk about this isn't a big deal, but it really is a big deal what you do. If you mess up one little thing after all the work they put into those cars, the crew's going to be mad at you.
And you'll come back to the Hollywood Hotel and talk about your ride in the 26 Toyota, a very important ride representing funds, donations for the Sandy Hook school victims and their families.
Yeah, last week we went up to Newtown, Connecticut and met with the town leaders, met with some of the victims' families, and what a humbling, heartbreaking experience that was. But, you know, the mayor of that small town in Connecticut told me that she saw people smile that she hasn't seen smile in quite some time. And so I know there's a lot of people rallying around this number 26, Newtown, to 80888. You can text that and make a donation. And we're going to make a lot of people happy just because that car's on the track.
I know already one of the young survivors said, hey, thanks for running for my brother, which is very, very touching. Good luck with that, Michael. And also NASCAR President Mike Helton certainly helping to put that together. And good luck. Possibly a shot at a third Daytona 500 championship. Wow. But you got to do well. You want to get in that top 20, top 25.
I think if we can get in the top 25, we'll be able to relax for a couple of days. If not, I'll be up on the chip wondering what's going to happen on Thursday.
You'll be edgy. Good luck. All right, Ed. Yeah, if you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. And, of course, aerial views of pole qualifying, the front row provided by DirecTV. We wish Michael Waltrip good luck. Let's head back to Mike Joy.
Thanks, Chris. On track is Jamie McMurray for Chip Ganassi, or Earnhardt Ganassi Racing, with Felix Sabates. McMurray from Joplin, Missouri. I guess he's NASCAR's newest dad.
He is. Daughter Hazel was born just before he made his trip down here to Daytona.
I think the interesting thing about this car, particularly and his teammate Juan Montoya, is they switched engine manufacturers over the winter. They went from ECR over to the Hendrick Motorsports group. And all these Hendrick Motorsports cars, their engines, they are performing down here, Larry. They have got some power under the hood, and Jamie's going to run a great lap here. At least it looked like he was till he came off turn 4.
McMurray, winner of the Daytona 500 in 2010, brings the McDonald Chevrolet across the line 8th, 46.14, 195 flat. Back down to Matt Yoakum.
And Mike, when you think of restrictor plate racing over the past 10 years or so, the guy that everyone led the way for was Dale Earnhardt Jr. So your fans want to know, how would you describe the restrictor plate racing last night with this new Gen 6 Chevy? Are we back to the old school type racing, the fun factor for you?
Yeah, I think we're going in that direction. You know, you can still kind of help people out and push people along, but the tandem stuff's not what you have to do, so that's good. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Thanks, Junior.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. On track is the Best Buy Ford number 17 from Roush Fenway Racing, a familiar sight in the Sprint Cup Series, but it has a new wheelman. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Nationwide Series champion the last 2 years, steps up to the Sprint Cup Series full time for Jack Roush. Made his Cup debut in the 2011 600 at Charlotte.
Yeah, he ran in the Daytona 500 a year ago, got a top 20 finish, actually finished 20th. And Darrell, back to Jamie McMurray, we saw the tracker really jumping around as he came off turn 4. I think one reason, if you look at Martin Truex Jr., who is 7th, back to Mark Martin, who's 11th, those 5 drivers only separated by just a little over a 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, it was even making the tracker nervous. And, it looked like it had really hurt him off 4, but he had a great lap. And it's just because of where the tracker was.
Right now, the fastest Ford is Casey Mears in 6th with a 46 flat.
But isn't it funny? I mean, again, back to the driver and how you make a qualifying lap around here. The first lap, you'd like to be able to rub the wall all the way around up on the outside. That second lap, you want to be all the way down against that yellow line on your second lap.
Here you see car owner Jack Roush looking on. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to complete lap 1. .46.61. That's just kind of an okay first lap. We've seen a lot of drivers run in the 50s and 60s on lap 1.
Jack Roush with the speed chart and the stopwatch.
Sucker.
And oh no, could it be a Stenica front row for the Daytona 500?
He carried a lot of speed through 1 and 2, and it carried all the way down that back straightaway. Now as he turned it off into 3, you can see the tracker going the other way.
I know where Jack Roush is watching from. Where is Danica watching from?
She might be in her motor coach watching our broadcast.
I'd say she's
she's with Chris Myers looking on. Here comes Ricky across the stripe. Not going to be the front row.
No, but
Fifth.
That's a good lap. Very good lap.
46.02 for Ricky Stenhouse. He is the fastest Ford, 5th fastest overall. And Danica joins Chris Myers right after we come back.
Daytona 500 pole qualifying is sponsored by the new 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost, by Samsung Galaxy Note 2. The next big thing is here. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Pole qualifying here for the Great American Race next Sunday. David Rudiman wrapping up, and Greg Biffle due up in just a moment. But currently on the pole and joining us here in the Hollywood Hotel, Danica Patrick in her GoDaddy Chevrolet. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
And congrats. So we were just watching as Ricky Stenhouse, you said you don't mind talking about your boyfriend, rooting for him. You said he'll be happy with where he ran currently.
Don't get me wrong, I still want the pole, but no, I think he'll be happy with that time.
How different Speed Weeks this year, at least coming into this after your experience last year, and how much did that benefit you?
Yeah, I mean, I think any experience is good experience. But I feel like it was a different experience last year. You know, we practiced in January and we felt like we were pretty good. And then we came for the race weekend and we just weren't. And this year we were pretty good in practice in January. So it made me worry coming to the weekend thinking, is it going to be a whole different story? But it wasn't. And I think that's just been the story of how it's gone so far. It's been pretty predictable and consistent and smooth, really.
You had that top practice speed, and right, and then so that set you with Tony Stewart, who kind of set the tone early today. Stewart Haas in a groove here. Well,
I mean, we're 1, 2, 3 right now, and I think that's. I mean, I think that says a lot about the team, a lot about Stewart Haas Racing, a lot about how much work was done over the winter, how close they pay attention to details, and how they've adapted to this new car. So I think there's a lot to be proud of there. I was walking down pit lane to come over here, and because we're not really in Hollywood here.
That's right. Don't give that away.
But I said I saw my friend Chris from GoDaddy, and then Tony Gibson was standing there, and I said, you know, you're the two people that I want to do it for. I want to do it for the team because it's very much about your preparation of the car, and I want to do it for you because GoDaddy, because you've been very patient with me to get to this point. So that's who I really want to do it for. And obviously Hendrick has done a good job of giving us some really good engines. So there's a lot of other people involved, and just me for sure, and just the driver. It's this is a very much a team pole, or a team front row, or a team top 6 if that happens, or a team qualification for that matter. So I'm not counting my eggs before they hatch.
Yeah. So who are you watching closely? Who do you worry about? And you said you kind of impatient here, and now you got to sit.
Well,
and wait.
I was watching Biffle. I mean, I think that those Roush cars are really good. Obviously, Ricky put up a good lap, quite a few tenths quicker than yesterday in practice. So I think that there's always something there. I feel like they do a good job of holding back until qualifying. But I think I'm definitely watching Austin. I think that he's a concern. You just never know. And then you got Junior coming up just a couple after him. So and Jeff's a couple after him. So I think anytime you've got those top teams, you've got to worry. Basically, I'm worried about every single driver that has left to go.
All right, we have a few more questions. You don't have to worry about Ricky. He's standing by, though, with our Matt Yoka. Matt?
Thanks, Chris. Currently P5 on the board is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So is that going to hold up as far as be best in the Ford class?
That'd be nice. Our best about Ford Fusion was That's the best it has been all weekend as far as speed, so we're happy about that. The guys did a good job between practice and qualifying, getting the adjustments done. Guess we need a couple more NOSes to get up there on the front row, but we would like to have got a pole here this weekend, but I think we got some good race cars this year, and looking forward to the duels.
All right, thanks, Ricky.
Thank you.
Chris?
And you said before, just because it's been talked about a lot on Valentine's Day, which was Media Day, the fact that you and Ricky are dating, so you don't mind the questions about that.
It feels awkward for you even, right? It's just an awkward conversation, not normal.
Really, I feel funny asking, like we're on Entertainment Tonight or something like
we're
that.
Not, though.
TMZ, but just the effect, it is unique when you're going to be out on a racetrack, especially next Sunday in the Great American Race. You're both rookies. Any advantage, disadvantage? Can you separate?
I mean, obviously I've been asked this already, and somebody asked me if out on the track, is he just another number out there? And I said, no, he's never been another number. He's been somebody that's always helped me and someone that's always given me advice and somebody that I have a lot of respect for and have always given room and been very, very fair out there. And he's done the same to me. So he's not just another number. He's somebody that I feel, obviously, but I mean, I feel like, at any point in time racing against him over the last few years, we've always had a lot of respect. So, I don't see that being any different. And,
you have a lot in common.
We have a lot in common, clearly. Actually, we're not very similar. We're actually quite opposite outside of driving a race car. I asked him that. I said, do you think that we're very similar? And he said, no. And I said, well, other than the fact that we do a job that only 41 other people do on the weekend, so, or at least in the race anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a group of the best drivers, and you happen to be
kind of a unique job.
Romantically involved in the 55th running of the Daytona 500. Darrell Waltrip wanted to comment, has a question for you from.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Danica, you always are so composed. I've seen you lose your temper a few times, but were you nervous today? When you went out to make this run today, were you at all nervous?
I was a little bit nervous. It's all about, just getting the shifts right and being smooth. And more than anything, I think it's about, you're trying to hug the line as much as possible, but you're trying to not steer too much. And so sometimes the car wants to kind of track up and move up the track a little bit, and you got to pull it down, but you also don't want to hit the apron. So it's not like you go out there and lock your arms and it just stays there. It's not that perfect of an arc around the corner. So, you're just trying to be smooth and run a nice line that doesn't scrub any speed. So, and then, the question always is if the car feels like it's kind of bound up and wanting to be freed up, do you let it off the corner and run more distance on the exit, or do you keep it pinched down and run a shorter distance? Back in the IndyCar days, it was all about the shorter distance because we had so much power. But in these cars, we're at terminal velocity, it feels like, for the whole lap for the most part. So there's really, you don't want to scrub too much speed, and there's so much heavier to get going again. So it's a little bit different than what I'm used to.
All right, thanks, Danica. To recap quickly, Greg Biffle's 3M Ford Fusion was 12th, now 13th. Clint Boyer, the 5-hour Energy Camry, has qualified 8th fastest. He is the second quickest Toyota, and this is another of the highly regarded rookies. Austin Dillon, the grandson of his car owner Richard Childress, who has experience in NASCAR's Truck Series, the Nationwide Series, and now he is driving a Childress Chevrolet, the Honey Note Cheerios car, trying to make the Daytona 500.
Well, he was third quickest overall from the two practices yesterday, and Danica Patrick talked about this Austin Dillon right here. In fact, they were so quick in the first practice, they elected to let it sit that second practice yesterday. You can see right here, he's tracking third as far as the tracker halfway down the back straightaway.
You think he had been watching our telecast, though? Look where he's running. He is eating that line up all the way around the racetrack. I think the guys realize there's a little bit of speed there. Not much, but a tad.
Well, it's in the genes. His grandfather was one of NASCAR's top independents, Richard Childress. His dad, Mike Dillon, saw success in what's now the Nationwide Series. Austin and his younger brother, Ty, are tearing up the tracks, and he'll be 8th at 46.06, 195.3.
Darrell, we know the drivers have no control over where they go out. We're back to basically getting the ball out of a bingo spinner. But you and I talked about it yesterday. I think history is repeating. Don't know if there's anything to it, but I know I always like to see my driver go out early in this session.
It's the little things, Larry. I mean, look at the times. They're just all over each other. An 81, 293s, a 97, 02, 03, 06. It's just hundreds of thousands of seconds. And cars, they get cold sitting out there. The wheel bearings and the things that you can't put heaters on. And it's only a tiny little bit. but that's all we're looking for.
That's all you're looking for, exactly.
Our current pole sitter, waiting it out with us, Danica Patrick, just over 196 miles per hour. Earlier, we showed the Ghost car, our Fox concept. There's Danica in the 10 car, but Tony Stewart, owner-driver, right there. That's the image. And Danica, you're watching with us. Take us through a little bit what you see here, what you're doing.
I mean, he, you know, obviously he's got the lead going through 1 and 2 there. He looked like he set up a little bit more for it. He let the car kind of unwind out of the dog leg. Oh, there's some Hendrick power.
There you go.
You know, it's all about not scrubbing. So, you know, going through the corner, you're trying to hold it down to the line, but you don't want to scrub it too much. So, you know, you can see that we're both pretty low.
Was there wind when you were out? Did you sense it?
You know, that's another thing, too, that you can't quantify with this is that, you know, what was the weather and what was happening. But, you know, it very well might have been something to do with wind. But that's always interesting. I think that the lines are what the only thing that we can really control out there. We're holding it wide open, so it's just about the line and how does that differentiate between one driver and the next. So so that's cool. I think that's a really cool thing that you guys let to show the fans that you know, there are different lines that you can take out there.
And our 24th driver out of the 45, and that is Denny Hamlin out. Now I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the relief. Assuming the front row, we can assume nothing, but if it holds up, how does that take some of the pressure off for next Sunday for you?
It's nice. It's, you know, I think it's as I said, it's good for the team and it's good for GoDaddy, but it's really nice to know that no matter what happens in those duels that you're going to be on the front row if that's where I, you know, can end up qualifying. It's such a weird thing, this qualifying and then going into the race, because you put so much into qualifying and it's so important and they worked so hard over the winter on it, but then for the most part, other than the front row, it's over and you have to race to it, which is such a crapshoot, to be honest, in the race. You've got to be lucky. You got to make sure you don't get crashed out. I mean, there's just so much else that goes into it. So, so it would be nice to know that what they've worked hard for over the winter is actually going to show up on Sunday for race day.
Yeah, the last pole winner to win the Daytona 500 back in 2000 was Dale Jarrett. So it doesn't automatically, once we actually get to the race. What did you take away from the Sprint Unlimited last night in observing or watching?
I thought that things looked a little bit more calm than I thought they would be. I mean, obviously based on practice, we all saw a lot of exciting things happen. So it didn't look like people got unhooked as easy as they could have. So I mean, obviously I noticed how good Tony was out there, of course. So that's good to see as a teammate. But I think you're going to see a lot of good racing. It didn't look like there was much bump drafting at all. I mean, maybe on the start you saw a little bit of pushing, you saw a little pushing here and there, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Hey, Danica, I mean, you have had some great runs at Indy. How does Daytona and Indy, how do you compare the two? Is it winning a pole here today? I mean, that has to make this a little bit more special than Indy, I would think.
I mean, it would definitely be a high point memory. I think that I think that, you know, Daytona has such a legendary following. It's you know, I recently heard that, I think it was yesterday, somebody said that winning the pole for the Daytona 500 was like media-wise winning the 4th biggest race. It was like winning the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, the All-Star race, and then the pole for the Daytona 500. So so it's clearly followed, and it's clearly a very, very important moment in the year. And speaks volumes about the team and their hard work. I think I know as a fan when I'm watching TV and I see a bunch of drivers talking about the car and talking about how the crew did a good job, and it honestly, what the fans need to understand is that, you know, we're holding it wide open out there, but there's those drag numbers, there's downforce numbers, there's all these different things that happen out there on the track. That it's not just a car. There's so many little things that the team does to get this car ready to go out there and be low drag and be fast and be aerodynamic sound, and the engines are so powerful. So, you know, that's why this means so much for a whole team.
Thanks, Danica. Michael Waltrip on track. Denny Hamlin completed his run in the FedEx Toyota. He and teammate Kyle Busch just 1,000th of a second apart, standing 4th and 5th. So Michael Waltrip driving in this car, not for his own team, but for Swan Racing. And the number 26 on this car, suggested by NASCAR President Mike Helton, to memorialize the 20 children and the 6 adults that were lost in that horrible day at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. And you can help participate in the recovery by texting to the number on Michael's quarter panel there, to make a $10 donation. Text Newtown to 80888. All the MWR cars will also carry that strip above the back window.
And you might ask, why is he not driving one of his own cars? His team was all set. He's got 3 cars down there. He didn't feel like it'd be fair to the other drivers on his team to say, hey, I want to run the Daytona 500, build me a car. These cars, it's been hard to get enough of them built anyway, so he made a nice arrangement with David Strimmy and this team to be able to drive that car.
Michael Waltrip qualifies in your favorite number, Darrell.
Yeah,
17.
Hey, and what's the date? Today's the 17th.
Steve Burns.
Well, guys, we heard Danica Patrick talk about the little things that team do to make these cars go through the air efficiently. Well, let's hang with me a minute. In the airline industry, the aircraft industry, one of the biggest costs they face is fuel cost. So they try to be efficient when flying their jets, flying their planes. They've done a lot of research in the aircraft industry. Matt Kenseth, I'm doing something very important right here. The airline industries have done a lot of research on how to make their planes fly more efficiently. Well, one of the things they've done is they've developed a high-tech wax. And on Matt Kenseth's car, there is a wax on this race car that's going to go out with Matt Kenseth today to help him slice through the air. And they say it is actually very good with headwinds.
We'll see.
But you have to admit now, Burns, is he not a pro? Kenseth walks up, messes with him, and Burns never misses a beat. Nope. He just goes right on with his report.
He pretty much told Matt Kenseth to
go away and leave me alone.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the National Guard Chevrolet for Rick Hendrick. Last year, made the chase for the Sprint Cup, but missed 2 races due to a concussion sustained in a crash. He did score a victory last year at Michigan, breaking a long winless streak, and had 10 top 5 finishes. He ended up 12th in the standings.
His first lap was a 46.52, which that's about a 10th slower than Danica Patrick's first lap. You can see the tracker, it's going the right direction into the top 5.
Pole sitter for the 500 2 years ago, and the winner in 2004.
No, I got to tell you, I know I talked about what line to run, all that kind of. I'd run whatever line he does, because this kid's smart. He knows how to get around Daytona. He hung with his dad long enough to figure that out.
This is the first of the 4 Hendrick drivers to qualify in this session.
Picks up off turn number 4, about a car width wide of the bottom at exit, but as Danica pointed out, you don't want to scrub that car coming off the corner, and Earnhardt ends up 6th, 46.01. 195.5. Matt?
Mike Denny Hamlin survives another one. Currently, if it all holds true, you'll be on the outside of row 1 for your duel. Starting up front, obviously an advantage, especially in that race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we saw yesterday when you reduce the pack of the cars that passing becomes even more difficult. So the duels won't have a full field, so you're going to want to keep your track position up front. That's going to be important, but really proud of this FedEx Express Toyota Camry team. We definitely ran faster than what we thought we would run. We were consistently about a 10th or so off of Kyle, and we were to jump right to where he was at. So that's hard work from all these guys here working on the road, and Darian Grobe, proud to run for that guy.
Fastest Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Chris?
Thanks, Matt. Clint Boyer is just on the side of the Hollywood Hotel. He's coming. He was
put my earpiece back in. I was talking to Clint.
So he was heckling you. What was it? He was asking if you held it wide open. You're making headlines.
I don't know. I don't know if were you holding it wide open was nice or not, or like,
no, he was
are you saying because you're
congratulating
fast or because you weren't fast enough? I'm not. I mean,
does he think you're sandbagging a little here? There's nothing to hold back. You're on the pole at the moment.
Yeah, it would be great. Like I was just saying to Clint, yeah. Driver to a driver, I'm like, this is about the team.
That's right.
I just hope that I didn't do anything and scrub any speed that would take away from grabbing a pole, and especially when it comes down to the little bits. It's you hope you did the best you can, but again, we'll just see how it shakes out. I mean, so far so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We got
Top three
We're
spots.
about halfway through.
Stewart Haas, and you're on top.
That's pretty big.
You've talked about the teamwork here. You're the driver, the racer, the quarterback, the leadership. You're in the limelight. That responsibility.
I guess I'm more the cheerleader.
So you said that. I did.
I was actually a cheerleader.
Just for the record, I know that. Yes, back when before you took to driving, and thank goodness you did. But what that responsibility that even if you do stay on the pole all week, as Daryl's often say, gives you a whole week of bragging rights and a lot of attention.
I think that something that I learned over my career is how important you are as that cheerleader and as that quarterback for the team to kind of set the mood for everybody and pick them up when they're down or just tell them how good of a job they did. I mean, I went down the wall and gave everyone a high five on the way out, on the way to walk out here, and I think it's important. They need to know how important they are, and they need to feel like they're part of the whole thing and appreciate it. Yeah, it's something that I've learned over the years. You've got to play that role. Yeah, you do, and they look to you, but to be quite honest, sometimes on teams there's more than one quarterback. I mean, I think Tony Gibson plays a great role too. He has been with his crew since like DEI days, he said, which doesn't even make sense to me. I don't even know. But different time. It was a different time then. But he's been with those guys so long, so obviously he's a good quarterback for his guys too, and that's why they've been together so long.
Well, thanks for coming into the Hollywood Hotel. Good luck. Have a Coke Zero and a smile. And
have a Coke and a smile.
And appreciate it. Good luck either way. And we'll see you on the Daytona 500 a week from Sunday as well. And Clint Boyer is coming up. We can hear him in the distance. You're watching pole qualifying for the Daytona 500 live on Fox.
Welcome back to pole position qualifying at World Center of Speed. Since they raced on the hard-packed sands of Ormond Beach more than a century ago, folks have come here to go really fast. Daytona 500 qualifying, Danica Patrick and Ryan Newman trying to become the 8th pair of teammates to start on the pole for the Daytona 500. This is Joe Nemechek from Lakeland, Florida. He is driving this Toyota that he owns, the Florida DOT A&B Constructors car. He is 27th. Regan Smith in the James Finch Guy Roofing number 51 Chevrolet, clocked in 21st just a bit earlier. Chris Devoto.
Mike, perhaps the only thing faster than these cars at Daytona was Team Jimmy Johnson in the half marathon this morning. So were you happy with your time?
Very happy. I broke 90 minutes, which was my goal.
That's insane, by the way.
Thank you. Very, very happy with that. And my foundation made up some shirts. We had Team JJF taking place. And Rick Allen, Michael Waltrip, Eric Amarola,
teammate, yeah.
Casey Kane, a bunch of people. Christine, a bunch of ladies were wearing shirts, so it was neat to have representation for the foundation out there today. And we're actually trying to sell a few online now, so if anybody wants to head to my website and check them out, the money will go to Jimmy Johnson Foundation. And fun day. Legs are, certainly feeling it now, but just 2 quick laps, and then I can go put my feet up.
I was going to say, as long as you just keep that one leg pedal down, you're okay.
Yeah, it's pretty easy here. A monkey can do it, so I'm going to be a monkey.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy.
5-time champ Jimmy Johnson. That half marathon this morning, 13.1 miles up and over the bridge to the beach. And a number of folks from the NASCAR community. Casey Kane said the coolest part was running down the hard-packed sands of Daytona Beach as part of that half marathon that started and ended here. Johnson in the car and ready to go. There are the results with Kane and Johnson completing it in under 90 minutes. On track, the defending champion of the Daytona 500. He's won 2 of the last 4 for Roush Fenway Racing. Now he moves to Joe Gibbs Racing in the Dollar General Toyota. This is Matt Kenseth, who had a bad, fast car last night in the Sprint Unlimited.
Well, he surely did, Mike.
And that first lap, that's right in there in the hunt, that 46.50 that he ran.
You know what, Larry? I've just been watching the flags. I think the wind has actually picked up a little. Man, he's down on the apron. He's taking the shortcut.
6th for Kenseth, 45.983. The 3 Joe Gibbs cars are covered by just a hundredth of a second, the 3 of them.
Yeah, listen to these times, second on down. 93.1, 93.6, 97.2, 97.3, 98.3. Those cars right there, all just in hundreds of thousands of each other.
2.5 mile racetrack.
Wow. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, two observations for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Number one, we were just watching video of Jimmy running the half marathon. Any thoughts of maybe you wanting to join Jimmy next year?
Heck no. Definitely shorten it up about 80% maybe. But I was surprised how fast they ran. It was incredible. But I don't know.
Especially at 34 degrees.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. It's just a long ways to run. But it sounded like a lot of fun.
A short debrief with Steve Letarte. Your pickup consistent with what we've seen with other drivers picking up. Pleased with that?
Yeah, we'd obviously like to be a little bit better. But, you know, we've gained a lot since we tested the car we tested down here. Wasn't very fast, and we learned a lot and built a couple good cars. We feel pretty confident in our 500 car to be real competitive when we get in the race trim.
Maybe next year we'll get a golf cart right alongside.
I don't know, man. I might run a few miles. Not all of it, but, hey, 13 miles, come on.
Thanks, Junior.
Thanks, Matt. Sparks fly from beneath the car of Jeff Gordon as he rounds the corner. Last year, Gordon got off to a kind of slow start, but made the chase for the Sprint Cup, wound up 10th in the final standings. His 7th consecutive top 10 showing, the 18th of his 20-year career. He scored 2 victories. This is the AARP Drive to End Hunger Chevrolet of Rick Hendrick.
Just a little thing, but when you see sparks, something's dragging the ground, and it's just like hitting the brakes. Only a little thing, but those little things add up.
And they were a long time getting this car through inspection. I mean, they just got out the pit road just a few minutes ago, so it almost makes you wonder if they made some changes on this race car.
Could have, and of course air pressure is a factor, you know, as well, so second lap it'll probably stop doing that.
Now the tracker shows that Gordon entered turn 1 fastest, dropped back to 8th, and is now gaining ground on the field. He was the pole sitter here in '99. He's a 3-time winner of the 500.
The tracker, just like I am, it's a little bit confused here because it's so many, these times are so close to each other, it's hunting around trying to figure out exactly where he is.
Gordon trying to fill the front 2 rows with Chevrolets.
Be close.
Knocks Ryan Newman off the outside pole. 45.85, 196.2.
Yeah, that's just 4 100ths off what Danica Patrick runs, so he's right there in the hunt.
Are you kidding me? Oh, my God.
Second for Jeff Gordon. Let's rejoin Chris Myers.
In the Hollywood Hotel with Clint Boyer, the 15 5-hour energy car, and you were just watching, admiring. Now we have Danica still on the pole, but just barely ahead of Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody would get even remotely close to that, but that was close enough. Somebody was nervous. I can promise you that.
Yeah, well, actually, when Danica was leaving, she said, workout, and then I might keep an eye on what's happening here. How about your run a little bit early? Now we're watching because we have to see you're currently 13th. Each time somebody does something well, you obviously get pushed back a notch.
Right. I mean, there's certainly cars that were faster yesterday. I mean, if you can't sit on the pole today, honestly, it's just really not that big of a deal. You run so many miles around this racetrack all week long, through the unlimited races that we've seen, through the qualifying races, through qualifying, all the miles. There's only really 2.5 miles that matter. It's those last 2.5 miles. So, you know, I can't wait to get to the race. You know,
yeah, we got a whole week here.
Today is important. Today is everybody's hard work in the off season playing out. You hear us talk about that over and over and over, but I'm telling you, it's a tremendous amount of work that goes into these race cars to finesse them. A great deal of pride for those crew guys seeing their cars up there, especially the ones that are at the top of the board.
For you, Clint, 7 Daytona 500s and twice you finished 4th. Obviously, do you have a strategy, a format, a plan, especially with the Generation 6 car?
It's just, you know, I learned a lot. Racers are always learning, whether you're in the car or not. I was watching, you know, my dirt hauler last night. And, you know, at first I sent Keselowski a message and said, man, new 2013 goals, win a pole. You know, this kind of sucks watching these guys. And then they wrecked, and I retracted that statement immediately and said, Keselowski, we're just fine where we're at. Didn't look like much fun, but you know, it's a constant learning process anytime you have a new car like that. But when you come down here, it seems like there's always a different package that makes the difference, and you know, you're going to have to figure it out. Doesn't seem like the air moves around this car like the car that we've had. You know, that last car was a box. You pushed a lot of air, you know, through the corners. You side drafted off each other. All that goes away. You know, it's a different rules apply now, and you got to figure it out.
Yeah, you're a candid guy. What have you learned so far in the Generation 6 car? You haven't been able actually to race it because obviously, as you said, you weren't in the Unlimited last night.
Well, the first thing is don't turn left on cars that are underneath of you. We've seen that twice. That does not work. It doesn't seem like they're able to lift for you and get you in line. You know, it's just, like I said, it's a constant learning process. You got to figure out how to get yourself in. The air moving around these cars is the biggest difference. You're going to have to figure out how to get yourself in that situation when the times are at the end of the race, and that's going to be hard to do.
All right, Clint watching with us is Michael Waltrip, his car owner, and, of course, our guest host here in the Hollywood Hotel will be back with us in just a moment. Let's head back upstairs.
Thanks, Chris. Brad Keselowski is the defending Sprint Cup champion. He just completed his run in the Miller Lite Ford, 16th fastest for Brad, 194.9 miles an hour. He'll be in his 4th 500 next Sunday. Now let's take our Fox Ghost car and put all 3 Stewart-Haas cars on the track together. Tony Stewart, the 14, Ryan Newman, the 39, and that green number 10 of Danica Patrick, the pole sitter.
And I like the way that Ryan swept down. You saw him just kind of sweep down in front of Danica's car there. But he didn't gain the speed until he starts to exit the corner. Now, he and Danica are pretty even down that back straightaway, but you can see Danica's car really takes off about halfway down the back straightaway, has a lot of speed in it.
But the bottom line, down the back straightaway, compared to her 2 teammates, she elected to hug that yellow line and run lower on the back straightaway.
I think they were doing that, you know, kind of trying not to bind the car up. The sees that they're both. Tony and Ryan both have been a car length or so a little higher than Danica. It's a little bitty thing, but I'm telling you, it makes that difference.
A lot of little things add up to 132nd around here. David Gilliland, second-generation racer from Riverside, California. The Love's Travel Center Ford for Front Row Motorsports. Looking to start his 5th Daytona 500. Pole sitter here in 2007. Here's Matt.
Mike, there was a slight delay getting the 24 car out to the grid due to an issue back in the garage. The car actually fell off a jack stand, and they had to repair some damage to the car. And Jeff, you were looking at the Ghost images with our Ghost car tracking system here, and you were commenting about what you think happened with the Stewart-Haas cars and yourself.
Well, first of all, I love that technology. We've been using it, you know, something similar. Yours is way cooler than ours, so if we can get our hands on yours, that'd be great. But, you know, just looking at how big a factor these gusty winds are playing today, and I think, you know, really worked in our favor. You know, we didn't have a big gust of wind, so I just didn't see a big RPM drop or the car buffeting around on the back straightaway. I've been hearing about some guys. When I saw the 14 up against a 10 on your Ghost image there, it just seemed to me like Tony had a much bigger headwind. He might have had a better tailwind coming down the front straightaway. That's how he got ahead of the 10, and then he had a bigger headwind on the back straightaway. So, you know, I'm interested in our Ghost image against a 10, but awesome lap. Boy, I did not expect to be as quick as this is. I hope it holds up for the front row because it's an awesome, you know, experience to be on the front row for the Daytona 500. I don't think anybody, you know, was going to come close to that 10. We come a lot closer than we thought we were. So great day for the Drive to Hunger Chevrolet. That started off with some drama. I got to tell you, it did. And you know, Alan and the guys, they kept their composure. This team has worked so hard over the offseason, as so many have, to get us here. I applaud them, and certainly applaud them under the stress they were under today with the day not starting out quite so well.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Krista hoping to hold on for his 6th front row start here in the 500.
Well, Matt, Casey Kane trying to duplicate what Jeff Gordon has done, but, you know, he's been a busy guy already, as we said, running that half marathon, and of the NASCAR contingent, Casey was the quickest. We were just talking about your time. You realize you burned over 1,800 calories this morning?
Yeah, my phone said 1,660, so I
gave you a little more, yeah.
All right, right around there, yeah, but I had a blast doing it. We got up early, it was cold, but as soon as the gun went off, I never once thought about the cold, and felt really good until the last couple of miles. My legs started getting pretty tired, but running down the beach was really cool, and I enjoyed it. I'm really glad that I trained for it the last couple months.
We are so impressed. Have fun today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Krista. David Gilliland ended up 21st, and here is 5-time series champ Jimmy Johnson in the Lowe's Chevrolet. Jimmy wound up 3rd. in the final tally by 1 point to Clint Boyer. In 2012, despite 5 victories and 18 top 5 finishes, the most of his career. He will start his 400th career Sprint Cup race a week from Sunday, when we'll tell you what other NASCAR notables won their 400th career start. Now, the qualifying procedure this year is different for the 500. The top 35 rule, guaranteeing the top 35 owners from last year into the race, that is gone. And we're back to the old style qualifying. Jeff Gordon is so happy about being on the front row because if that holds up, that's where he'll start next Sunday. If you are 3rd fastest in today's time trials, all that means is you will start outside pole in your Budweiser Duel on Thursday. You could start 3rd in the Daytona 500. You could start 43rd. A lot of it is up to how those Thursday races, which you'll see live on Speed, will play out. Jimmy Johnson 15th, 46-13, 195 miles an hour for his Chevrolet.
Tuesday.
The Levine family racing Ford of Manteca, California's Scott Speed, ex-open wheeler, times in 25th quickest at 46.502, 193.5 miles an hour. Yesterday morning was the annual Racing Legends Parade up the hard-packed sands of Daytona Beach, where they used to race. You'd race down south on A1A, make the south turn, and come back up the beach. And that's how NASCAR was born, racing here at Daytona Beach. A lot of former race cars and replicas. And Clint Boyer, you're an old school hot rod builder. How would you have liked to have taken one of those modified coupes and raced it here on the beach?
Daryl?
Hey now. I know what you're going. I never raced on the beach. You understand that?
Is that an age joke?
I've never raced on the beach.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was wrong. I was confused there.
But I have a question for you, Boyer.
Hi, buddy.
You're a wild and crazy guy. I mean, you do all kind of crazy things. How do you get yourself calmed down and settle down to get in that race car and drive the way you do?
Well, I don't know that. Have you ever heard me?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
Well, man, it's easy. You're focused on the corner ahead or the car in front of you. I just like having fun. In a great situation where we're back to having fun. You know, racing has always been a blast for me since I was a little kid. And when you're not having success and you're not enjoying yourself, it's miserable. So, man, I'm telling you, the new situation that I'm in with a new sponsor, the new manufacturer, everything that happened last year was just a ton of fun. And I thought, I just saw the real me come back out.
I think you're right. That's the real you, what I've seen the last year, for sure.
I hope it's a
and
good
I've
thing.
enjoyed. No,
hey, here comes my plane to get me.
Say that's one of our different monitors already kept her.
Oh, they didn't show that?
See it in the here at the Hollywood Hotel.
Oh,
you can see a number of different shots before we put them on the air.
Yeah. Other than Air Force One, I think it was the biggest plane I've ever seen. So.
All right, but Clint, seconded points that when Daryl's asking about your crazy personality, when you have a boss like Michael Waltrip, Michael Waltrip Racing, who's rejoined us here in the Hollywood Hotel.
I was going to say that's pretty dangerous when you just put us two, in here with you guys.
You know, the first thing I learned about Clint is I've had people walk off from me while I was telling them a story. He will walk off from you while he's telling you a story. So it's really difficult to keep Clint focused, but for some reason when you put him in a car and strap a helmet on him, it's amazing the transformation that you get.
What about that focus, Michael? Winning on a road course. I mean, and he had people nipping at him, and he never put a wheel wrong. That really impressed me.
That was just a perfect drive that whole afternoon. It was an amazing accomplishment. We didn't know our dirt track boy from Kansas even knew a thing about a road race. We just took him out there. Because that was the next race on the schedule. And the way that car performed, the calls that the pit crew made, and then Clint standing up to the pressure that Kurt Busch just was all over him. And then here comes Tony Stewart on the last lap. That was an amazing accomplishment.
It was fun. It was our first race together. That's the biggest thing. You always, when you go into a new situation, usually it's just with a new sponsor, you can't wait to get them in victory lane. That's what you're, in business to do. And to be able to put everybody as a whole, as a new group together, together in Victory Lane was super cool.
I know Larry McReynolds has pointed out that you've had success on all different kinds of tracks. That's I think a good reason, not only finishing second in points, but to say you're a true contender for the championship.
Yeah, I'm just hoping. You know, my boss is pretty good at this Daytona 500.
Oh.
This is a big race. I think you could help me here.
Totally.
You know,
I'm in.
I need some advice. Would like to win next Sunday, right here.
Boys, I tell you,
you know how good
is
that
scary
Toyota
when he's
looks
going
in that, you know how good that Toyota looks in that Toyota showroom floor. It would look super good, awesome in that Daytona USA over there. That would be a new.
Hey,
showroom
Michael.
floor.
Here's what I want to ask you. Now we know Clint Boyer gave Michael Waltrip Racing 3 wins, second in the points last year. But did you ever think you would hire a driver that said a few years ago
Thanks,
you might
Larry.
be the worst driver on earth?
Larry, you can't
Hey, look
do
at
that.
Jeff Burton go around that racetrack. Come on, Jeff. Big boy.
Hey, Clint and I have agreed to disagree on a few things. It's helped our relationship tremendously.
But, you know, the bigger question, I think, with Darrell's going is personality, the tenseness behind the wheel, the high speeds, the danger, and yet you both seem to be very relaxed your personality. How does that help you have success?
I think it's like me. We're so happy we get to race cars. I mean, nobody promises you a chance to race a car. You're not given this opportunity. You're not deemed to be a race car driver. You got to work your rear end off for it. And when you get to race at this level and go out and mix it up with Richard Petty like I did in my career, and my brother Darrell Waltrip, and Clint racing against Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson.
Wait a minute. Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
How is that Jeff Gordon thing? Is that okay? Larry and I wanted to bring that up, too, so we cover that.
I thought I'd sort of tiptoe into it.
Used to be a lot of fun
You guys are all
racing
good?
against him. It's not much fun here lately.
You're pals now, right?
We're fine.
You're fine. For now. But Michael's not forgetting. All right. Let's.
Hey, Boyer, I was trying
let's
to take
check in
care
with
of
Steve
everybody.
Burns. Jeff Burton just wrapping up. Steve?
With the Daytona 500 champion Trevor Bayne. And Trevor, we always like to talk about your amazing victory, but I think I've got to say your car might be the star. That might be the prettiest race car with a ton of history behind it.
It really is, and all these cameras are around, but it's not for me, it's for this ride behind me. It looks awesome. The exact replica is actually sitting in the infield here. They've got the Hall of Fame car that they built for that, the 63, sitting over there, and this one looks just like it, the paint scheme does, and I'm excited about it. But I heard that paint scheme is undefeated at the Daytona 500, so I got a little bit of pressure on me now.
Tiny Lund drove that car. It was an amazing story. And also, right by the car, Leonard Wood, one of the Wood brothers, just recently inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's got his jacket on and he's got his ring on, so I'm sure he's staying plenty warm out here today. He's excited. He's that guy. He's unbelievable. All the Wood family has been incredible to me to let me drive their race cars and be a part of this. Glenn Wood, Leonard Wood. I mean, there's not better people around, and I'm excited that I get to drive their car at a place like this because they know how to build a super speedway car. We don't know what to expect yet. These 2013 cars, nobody knows until they get out here, but they put a lot of work into this, so we'll see what we can do in a minute.
Good luck, Trevor.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Chris Myers.
Thank you, Steve. And taking a look at Casey Kane here, and both Michael and Clint said he's a threat to maybe knock Danica out of the pole spot.
Yeah, certainly. You got to look at those Hendrick cars. We saw Jeff Gordon sneak up there and have a shot at it. And
Well, he's the only one that challenged her in the weight category. You know, so weight was
Did he
the
lose 1,000
there.
calories in the
He's already like, what, 100 pounds, and then he just lost 1,800 calories more. I mean, that puts him right there.
They were talking about how fast he ran that half marathon. Put 20 years and 100 pounds on him. Let's see how fast he'll go. That's what I was dealing with out there on the beach.
25.
Yeah.
How about you, Clint? You wouldn't get up early and run one of those things? A half marathon?
No.
No, okay.
I have no idea why one would want to do that.
That's why you race a car. Hey, thanks for coming in. Good luck next Sunday. By the way, he's part of a special feature, a Being feature that we shot and that we'll put together. You were there for the shooting of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But next
I was
Sunday.
there for the shooting of my own. Yeah.
Next Sunday, it will run on our pre-race show. We'll also have a feature on the Hendrick drivers. Don't worry, Michael. You'll catch on. And it'll be a lot of fun. All right, thanks for coming by. We appreciate it.
All right, bud. Have fun.
All right, and
where is he?
We just want to finish up the run. You want to do a little analysis here with Michael before we let you out of the Hollywood Hotel?
Yeah, boy, he's got a lot of. If he's going to go from 10th to the lead, he better mat it now.
Thank you for that insight. There you have it. There you have it. All right, we appreciate Clint being with us. Is there you see the numbers? You're watching front row qualifying from Daytona. It's a good seeing you. All right, you guys are quite a combo. All right, and we'll have more in just a moment. So please stay tuned. Daytona 500 pole qualifying is sponsored by AT&T. Rethink possible. Our live coverage continuing, and glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox, and our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything we learn making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what we roll into your car. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
Danica Patrick on the pole so far. 5 fast Chevrolets lead the 3 Joe Gibbs Toyotas and Joey Logano's 4 Dale Jr. Chevrolet. That's your top 10 right now. As the detail Dr. Ford for Front Row Motorsports comes out, David Reagan of Unadilla, Georgia, working on his 7th Daytona 500 start. Here's a look at your top 10.
And Darrell and I were talking a lot of Hendrick engines, but then you also see all 3 of the Joe Gibbs drivers there in the top 10.
You got 6 Hendrick engines in the top 10, and you have 3 Gibbs Toyotas in the top 10 and 1 lone Ford there at Logano.
Brian Keselowski, that's Brad Keselowski's older brother, 31 years old, from Michigan, has brought a car down here to try to make the Daytona 500. They rolled it out for qualifying. It would not start. So NASCAR puts that car on a 5-minute clock. That's how long they have to get the car running and across the line to begin its qualifying lap. Otherwise, he'll be recorded as no time and start last in his Budweiser dual race on Thursday.
David Reagan completing lap 1. David's lone Sprint Cup Series win came here back in July of 2011. We talked about Paul Menard getting married. David Reagan married longtime girlfriend Jacqueline Butler during the offseason.
Remember, Reagan nearly won the 2011 Daytona 500, but changed lanes on a restart against the rules, was black flagged, all but within sight.
And Trevor Bayne was ready to push him to victory. Trevor wasn't even thinking about pulling out and trying to win a race. He was just going to push Reagan to the finish. They black flag him, and all of a sudden Trevor's leading the race. Says, oh man, look at this.
Quickest Ford right now is Joey Logano's Shell Pennzoil Ford from Penske Racing, fastest at 45.97. Here's Reagan, 46.24. He and teammate David Gilliland time in within 100th of a second of each other. Let's revisit our Fox Ghost car with the fastest 2 qualifiers right now. Danica Patrick in green and Jeff Gordon's number 24 Chevrolet.
One thing I like about this, Danica runs the same line every time. I really like that.
Well, let's see what happens down the back straightaway, but what seems to be consistent, she's always lower, whether it's versus Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, now Jeff Gordon.
But everybody beat her into turn 1. Everybody, even Stewart had a car length, you see here. But I don't know, Jeff said maybe a puff of wind, or maybe she didn't get the same wind as he got. And you can see she's pulling away a little bit here in 3.
But Darrell, probably don't you think the reason everyone kind of beat her into turn 1 is because she maybe pinched it off just a little bit by being lower entering turn 1?
Could very well be, Larry, but you saw everybody beat her into 1, and she beats everybody into 3 and 4.
And there's the difference, 3/100ths of a second at the start-finish line. Trevor Bayne driving the Wood Brothers number 21, the Motorcraft Ford. Ever since Glenn Wood first strapped into a NASCAR racer more than 60 years ago, the Wood Brothers have been a Ford team.
That car it's a paint job, as Trevor mentioned, of the Hall of Fame car sitting over in the fan zone over there, the 63.5 Ford. Leonard, Eddie, Glenn, all of them, they worked so hard to build that car over there for the Hall of Fame. And of course, the drivers that have driven this 21 car, Larry, it's a who's who of auto racing, not just in stock cars, but Indy cars, A.J. Foyt, Dan Gurney, so many people.
5 Daytona 500 wins, and there's Leonard Wood on the left. Tiny Lund, Cale Yarborough, A.J. Foyt, David Pearson, and Trevor Bayne won the 500 for Glenn and Leonard Wood.
And this will be the 55th running of the Daytona 500. Should they get in this 500, and we anticipate they certainly will, it will be the Wood Brothers' 52nd start in the Great American
And
Race.
that's Leonard we see there. Just think about it. David Pearson got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Glenn Wood got in the last year, and Leonard Wood this year. And this baby is on a run.
Ooh. just as we did that, he lost a bit of speed there on the back straightaway.
Well, we felt like this would be one of the bullets that Danica Patrick will have to dodge. And of course, there's another Hendrick engine to go, Juan Pablo Montoya, not to mention Kevin Harvick, who's shown a lot of speed so far. And it's going back to the left now as he comes toward the start-finish line.
Very nice run. Super run.
Third for Trevor Bayne inside row 2. He is by far the fastest Ford at 45.92, 195 points.
I bet Leonard Wood's been working on that fuel injection somehow and got that thing super tuned up.
Well, I understand he still does a bit of work on the drive lines.
Oh,
nobody's better at cheating mechanical
Man, good
drag.
job, guys. Just missed the front row. That's a really good job, though, this thing.
Great run for Trevor Bayne, and briefly you saw Brian Keselowski's car. They're still trying to push start it as that 5-minute clock runs down on Keselowski's hopes of making the Daytona 500.
Carl Edwards over here. It's
trying to lend a little hand there.
You see this gentleman right over here. That's Bob Keselowski. That's Brian and Brad's dad, who's actually serving as the crew chief for Brian Keselowski on this car.
I think Carl's probably saying, you know, maybe there's some things to reset the ECU unit. Did you hit the button on it? You know, whatever. I think he's just trying to help Brian here get this thing fired up.
And the hourglass ran out. Brian Keselowski does not go home, but he'll start at the back of his Budweiser dual race Thursday. Kevin Harvick, whom we last saw last night in Victory Lane for the Sprint Unlimited. Put son Keelan in the car for a bit of good luck. Keelan learned to crawl this weekend. Dad learned the way to Victory Lane. Watch this block on Greg Biffle. Take that. There wasn't an inch between them. They touched, and Harvick held them off.
Yeah, while everybody else was running the marathon this morning, he was finishing his up about the time they took off.
Yes, he was.
His little celebration. I texted him last night, congratulating him, said, and the celebration begins.
The Budweiser Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. It's already known this will be his final season with that team, and he sure started it off with a bang.
I love what he said on the radio. He said, well, there's one for the lame duck group.
Harvick did not show a lot of speed in practice yesterday.
No, they've actually struggled with the car. He complained about no corner speed. The car really seemed to be dropping off in the turns quite a bit. They made an adjustment on that car yesterday one time and seemed like it picked up, but they never could back that speed up.
Well, Darrell, I have to believe that this car here, it's pretty much what teams will do. This will be a better race car than even what he had last night. I'll bet you this race car races good.
I bet you that race car driver will race good.
Yes, he will. See a little bit of water, a little bit of steam there at the base of the windshield on the right side, getting a little bit warm with all the tape on the nose.
Well, that's, you know, they've probably done everything they can to try to get as much speed out of this car as they can.
23rd for Kevin Harvick. Now, we mistakenly thought the time had run out on Brian Keselowski, but here's Steve.
Well, you guys saw part of the story. Carl Edwards was walking over to us to do an interview, and he saw the 52 team frantically trying to get that car started. He ran over and he told some of the guys on his team, hey, come on, let's help this guy get going. You know, Carl knows what it's like to have lean times, but long story short, Carl went back with them, and he helped them get this car pushed and fired. So nice job by Carl Edwards to help an underfunded team.
Absolutely. Carl knows what it's like. 10 years ago, he told me the other evening, he was living in an apartment, driving a car with no heater, working a full-time job, racing on weekends. But
yeah, something is still not right for Brian Keselowski. Doesn't sound right. It's not even close to up to speed.
Keselowski was slowest in practice yesterday. Single car, lightly funded operation, family operation. Trying to live the dream here.
You know, I was reading just this morning that Brian graduated from Rochester High School in 1999 in Rochester, Michigan, but the way he did it, because he wanted to work during the day on the family race team, he did it by taking night classes.
All right, Keselowski on track. Let's check with Matt.
Hey, Mike, about 50 yards away is a replica that Leonard Wood beautifully created for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And the current model, very fast. What means most to you about putting this car just outside the front row?
man, qualifying is what showcases all the hard work for the offseason. I mean, when you look up there and you see the top guys, that shows who worked the hardest and the smartest, I guess, throughout the whole offseason. And I know that these guys know how to build a super speedway car. We'd love to be on the front row because that's really all that matters today. But, you know, it does show how hard they've worked, and that's their payoff. In the race, you know, you get in the draft and all the aero of the car, it's not as important. I mean, it's important for sure once you get out to the front, but anybody can kind of push up to the front or do whatever. But this pays off for them.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
You know, young drivers, when you think back to Trevor down here 2 years ago when he won the race, Jeff Gordon really gave Trevor Bayne a lot of confidence. He went to Trevor Bayne and said, you've got a fast car and you really know what you're doing with it. That confirmation from another driver, from a veteran driver like Jeff Gordon, it can make all the difference in the world in a guy trying to get his career going, get a name for himself. And that was huge.
And on Thursday, Gordon backed it up by drafting with Trevor Bayne. A lot of people wouldn't run with a rookie, but he did. Here is Brian Keselowski, the truckerfan.com Toyota. Coming to the line, he will post a lap of 48.94 to get him a position in the Budweiser duel on Thursday that will set the field for the 500. Steve?
With Juan Pablo Montoya, and got a good start last night until you sustained some damage. How fast is this Chevrolet right now?
I think it's pretty good. You know, our target Chevy seemed pretty good yesterday. You know, we had to do an engine change. And the second practice, you know, the engine let go. So I don't know. We'll see. I think this motor is probably as good as the one we had, or very close. So it should be pretty good. You know, we felt we were pretty good in practice. So we'll see.
Thanks, Juan.
No worries.
Now, he mentioned changing engines. The way the engine rule works here, he will have to go to the rear of the field to start the Budweiser duel on Thursday. He can start the 500 wherever he finishes in that Budweiser duel.
I think he's going to be pretty good, Larry, because when he was out there when the engine blew in that thing, he was on a pretty fast lap.
Yes, he was. It was going to be a great second lap. That's when it blew up.
I wouldn't count him out.
Kurt Busch from Las Vegas, Nevada. Sprint Cup Series champion and a three-time runner-up in the Daytona 500, twice for Roush Fenway Racing, and then in 2008 for Penske Racing.
Pushed his teammate to victory that day.
Right, Ryan Newman.
Yeah, and it was a big day for Roger Penske. He won the Daytona 500, but no day bigger for Roger Penske than this last year.
1 year ago, Kurt Busch drove for James Finch. Furniture Row Racing, based out of Denver, Colorado, decided to make a change and put Kurt Busch behind the wheel of their Chevrolet late last season. Team owner Barney Visser convinced by his whole team and management that if we can get this guy, we can win races. And Busch has had a troubled time off the track. He's a bit mercurial with his temper, but he's a wheelman.
Yeah, and they were pretty solid those last 4 or 5 races of 2012. And I think back to his speed weeks 2 years ago driving for Penske. He won the Sprint Unlimited. He won the Budweiser Duel. Led a lot of laps in the Daytona 500. Ended up finishing 5th. So a great speed weeks for Kurt a couple of years ago.
And Regan didn't end up in too bad a shape. I mean, he's going to drive for Dale Jr. this year in the Nationwide Series. They won the last race at Homestead last year. So, you know, maybe it worked out best for everybody.
Yeah, and he'll run a limited schedule just as he's going to be doing here in the Daytona 500, driving that 51 car for James Finch.
37th on lap 1, and this car not gaining speed versus the field as Busch comes around to complete the second time lap right down by the yellow line. Good line. The car just doesn't have quite as much speed in it as he would like. Kurt will pick up from 37th to 30th, 46.47, 193.6. 3 drivers to go in Daytona 500 pole position qualifying. Can former open-wheeler Danica Patrick become the 11th different driver in a row to win the Daytona 500 pole in only her 11th Sprint Cup Series start? We are 2 cars away from finding out in Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Josh Wise out of Riverside, California has turned a lap of 46.33, 194.2. He is 30th, trying to make his first Daytona 500. Tony Raines ran that car here last year. Here is Carl Edwards, who tied for the championship with Tony Stewart 2 years ago in the Sprint Cup Series. Stewart winning on the tiebreaker. Pole winner 1 year ago, the Fastenal Ford of Roush Fenway Racing for Carl Edwards. Last year wasn't as strong for Edwards. Scored 0 wins and failed to make the chase for the Sprint Cup for the first time since 2006. 3 top 5 finishes in a season that Edwards would like to put behind him.
You know, Mike, you mentioned Carl set on the pole last year, and it was 194.7, 46.216, just to show you, with a lot of the same rules as far as engine and all, how much faster this car is. That pole speed he ran a year ago would put him about 25th on the grid right now.
46.80 on lap 1 for Edwards, who won the pole for last year's 500, as you mentioned, his 11th pole, and he comes to Daytona with a new crew chief, Jimmy Fenig, who is a 2-time Daytona 500 winner.
Yeah, won it with Bobby Allison in 1988, the first Daytona 500 we ran the restrictor plate, and of course last year with Matt Kenseth. This is the last Ford driver to qualify. We have 2 Fords in the top 10 right now. Trevor Bayne is 3rd. Joey Logano hanging in there at 9th.
His teammate Ricky Stenhouse currently is 12th, and Greg Biffle 25th. Edwards right between them, 16th, 46.09, 195.2. He is the 5th fast Ford.
Saw Carl go down on the apron coming to get the flag here. See that at Talladega? I only saw that a couple of times a day. I'm not sure there's any speed there, but the guys tried it anyway.
You know, Mike, just sticking with the Ford theme, I want to tip my hat to Casey Mears and his team. They're hanging in there in the top 15, the 4th quickest Ford qualifying team.
Hey, this qualifying session at Daytona is always tense, and we had Danica in earlier, and she's talking about she hates the wait. But if you put up a time like that, it's pretty fun to wait around and see if anybody can knock it off. In our case, we've qualified back in the 30th position so far. So that means that I'm going to have my work cut out for me on Thursday. I'm going to go into that race knowing I better get it done by drafting my way to the front and finishing well in that race in order to be able to race in the Great American Race on Sunday. And that's the cool thing about this session, Chris. Everybody knows what their agenda is now. Danica is going to start on the pole for the Daytona 500. Despite the fact that Trevor Bayne is setting 3rd in qualifying, he could start back in the 30s or 40s, depending on how his Thursday goes, and he knows that. But he's locked into the race because of that lap.
Thanks, Michael. Juan Pablo Montoya in the Target Chevrolet SS. Earnhardt Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates for the winner of the Indy 500 and the Grand Prix of Monaco in Formula One. He will be starting his 7th Daytona 500 1 week from today.
The biggest thing that Juan Pablo Montoya and his team that they wanted to accomplish here this weekend is be running at the checkered flag of the Daytona 500. 4 Speedway restrictor plate races last year, 4 DNFs due to either accidents or engine issues.
36 on his first lap, 46.59 for the Colombian.
Still early in the lap, but the tracker looked pretty good. In fact, when he turned down into 1, we saw sparks fly out from underneath his car.
Seen that on a number of cars. Again, it's just like hitting a brake. When something underneath that car drags the ground, it's just like dragging a brake.
Had only 2 top 10 finishes last year. Clearly a rebuilding year for Chip Ganassi's team. They made a lot of changes. They're ready to come back strong because 2 top 10s last year was the least of Montoya's Cup career.
Yeah, when you look at Montoya and McMurray, his teammate, they did not even have 1 top 5 finish last year.
A little bit better, a little better than McMurray.
Good lap, 13th for Montoya, 46.03, 195.5 miles per hour.
McMurray
7th
was 40,
among the Chevys.
46.40.